Welcome to Deposit Your Doubt. This isn't a space of judgment, but a sanctuary for spiritual exploration. Here, your questions aren't threats to faith, they're invitations to deeper understanding. I'm Krystal, and I've learned that our most profound moments of spiritual growth often bloom in the uncertain terrain between what we know and what we're still discovering. This podcast is your soft landing, your grace-filled conversation, your reminder that questioning doesn't mean breaking, it means becoming. What happens when our deepest hopes and dreams remain unfulfilled? When we dream of something for years, we pray for things for decades, and we know in our heart that the thing we want is truly exactly what we desire. When that longing goes unnoticed, unanswered, or is just completely ignored, what happens deep inside of us? What happens when you have begged God for things and He simply just doesn't produce? There was a period in my life where I knew someone who had prayed for a specific thing for a decade. She was certain this thing was what she was supposed to have. She knew it in her bones. She developed a large following of people online, and this large following were people that longed for the same thing. And through that following, she preached that this thing is in fact from God and He would deliver. I was so put off by the language for a long time. I know God promised us things, and sometimes we feel His certainty in some things, but a lot of times I feel like we attach His promise to something that He never intended to give us. We are human. We desire things that we can conjure up in the reality of what we know. We don't have eternal vision to see what the Lord has for us beyond what we can see. So I remember watching this girl lead her following of people to a promise unfulfilled. And I remember thinking, she may get what she believes He has promised her, but some of her followers will not. And what then? Will they reject the gospel she preaches? Will they reject the God they follow now when He doesn't show up the way they want? Sometimes the hardest truth we must face is that our deepest dreams, despite their intensity and seeming righteousness, simply aren't what God has planned for us. This realization can be devastating, especially when we've interpreted Psalm 37:4 to mean that God will fulfill our specific desires if we just love Him enough. We all know that verse well. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. There's a profound mystery in the promise that God will give you the desires of your heart. Many of us misunderstand this to mean that God functions as a wish granter for the faithful. But what if this verse isn't about God fulfilling our pre-existing desires, but rather about Him reshaping our hearts until His desires become our own? When dreams die, it might not be a detour or delay. It might be God's loving no. Not because He's withholding good things, but because He has something different, often something better in mind. This no isn't punishment, it's protection and direction. We have example after example of this in the Bible. People who longed for something specific, and a story where God did not deliver that. Think about Moses. He dreamed of leading Israel into the promised land. He worked his whole adult life for it. After 40 years of difficult leadership, he was only permitted to see the promised land from a distance. A specific dream, not fulfilled in the way that he hoped. Or consider Paul, who had a vision to preach in Asia, but the Spirit repeatedly closed that door, redirecting him to Macedonia instead. Specific dreams rerouted. The death of our dreams creates space for God's greater purpose to emerge. It's in these moments when we stand in the ashes of what we thought would be that we discover God wasn't destroying our future, but clearing ground for something we couldn't have imagined. This is perhaps the hardest surrender, releasing not just the timing of our dreams, but the dreams themselves. It requires trusting that the God who knows the end from the beginning loves us too much to give us lesser things when He has planned greater ones. The question transforms from why won't God give me what I want to what does God want for me that I haven't yet learned to want for myself. I want to say that again because I really want it to sink in. Your questions should transform from why won't God give me what I want to what does God want for me that I haven't yet learned to want for myself? And the unrelenting truth is, often the best situations for us come after the death of what we think we want. Consider the remarkable metamorphosis of a butterfly. Inside the chrysalis, something extraordinary happens. The caterpillar doesn't simply grow wings, it actually dissolves. What was once a caterpillar becomes a nutrient-rich soup of cells. And from this apparent destruction, the butterfly begins to form. The caterpillar's former self must completely come undone before the butterfly can emerge. What appears to be death is actually transformation. The caterpillar doesn't merely change, it surrenders its old identity entirely to something more beautiful. What a powerful picture of how God works with our dreams. Sometimes what looks like death of a vision is actually God's metamorphosis in progress. Think about the seasons in nature. Autumn's vibrant display of colors isn't just beauty, it's a necessary release. Trees withdraw nutrients from their leaves, letting go of what served them well through spring and summer. What appears to be death, leaves falling and branches becoming bare, is actually the tree's wisdom. By surrendering what it cannot sustain through winter, it preserves its core strength and prepares for spring's renewal. I love the example of the trees because they let go of what doesn't serve them anymore. Our dreams sometimes follow the same rhythm. What served us in one season may need to be released before a new season of growth can begin. The tree doesn't mourn its leaves. It knows when to hold on and when to let go. This, my friend, is where we are headed, knowing what to hold on to and knowing what to let go of. And knowing that in the death of what was once beautiful to us, there is something more stunning waiting for you. Proverbs 13:12 tells us, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life." This verse captures the raw anguish of disappointed dreams, that heart sickness that comes when we've longed for what seems forever out of reach. We all carry dreams close to our hearts, dreams of meaningful relationships, fulfilling careers, ministry opportunities, restored health, or even family reconciliation. When these dreams die, the pain can be devastating. You might find yourself asking some of these questions. God, why did you place this desire in my heart only to let it die? What was the point of all my preparation and waiting for this dream to be fulfilled? How can I move forward when what I want most is gone? In this episode, I want to explore 3 powerful scriptural passages that provide deeper insight into navigating the wilderness of disappointed hopes. First, let's look at a very popular book that's called Habakkuk. Habakkuk 2:2-3 says, "And the Lord answered me, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end, it will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay." Habakkuk wrote during a time of national crisis. He questioned God about his apparent inaction in the face of violence and injustice. God's response is profound. Some visions have an appointed time. What looks like delay to us is actually divine timing. My husband has developed this habit over the past few years of writing down all of his dreams and all of his hopes and all of the things that he prays for our life. He has learned the importance of putting his desires into existence. He can have them in his head, but when he writes them down, they are more likely to happen. Now, this doesn't mean if he writes it down, God will fulfill it, but it does mean he is actively working towards making what is in his mind match the will of God and beyond. He isn't disappointed when he looks back at the list and sees something didn't happen that he hoped for. He actually can see better when God did something better than what he wrote. God asked Habakkuk to write his vision down. He wanted other people to see this vision because it may be slow to Habakkuk. But for someone else, they will see the vision come to fruition and know it had been prayed for a long time ago. Consider David. He was anointed as king as a young man, yet he spent years running for his life before claiming the throne. Those years weren't wasted. They were preparation. David learned leadership, he developed character, and he gathered the people who would later support his kingdom. When our dreams seem delayed, we might actually be in a season of preparation. The question becomes not, why hasn't this happened yet, but what is God teaching me in this waiting? Think back to any point in your life. You are currently standing in a season you prayed for, and you prepared for a long time ago. If you don't believe this is true, think hard, my friend. You are living in something you prayed for, and I submit to you that you are likely living in something better than what you prayed for. That was certainly David's story. Hey, podcast listeners, let me tell you about the game changer that slashed our family's bill, Mint Mobile. Years ago, we were paying a ridiculous wireless bill. You know the feeling, those massive monthly bills that make you want to throw your phone across the room. Well, we were done. And then we discovered Mint Mobile. This isn't just another wireless carrier. Mint Mobile is like the superhero of mobile plans. We switched and have never, and I mean never, looked back. We're talking premium wireless service at prices that make your wallet do a happy dance. And listen, I've been getting messages asking, do you truly use Mint Mobile, since people have been listening to the podcast? And the answer is a resounding yes. My family and I are actual customers. We're not just promoters. We practice what we preach. Right now, they've got an incredible deal. If you sign up today, you get 1 month free on their 3-month 5 gigabyte plan. And here's the cherry on top. If you use my referral link, you'll score $15 in renewal credit. That's money that they put back in your pocket. Think about it. With the money that you save, you can go grab a coffee for you and a couple friends. Treat yourself to something nice, because Mint Mobile just made your wireless life so much easier. Switch now. Trust me, your bank account will thank you. Make the smart move. Click the link in the show notes to take you right to your savings. Isaiah 55, 8-9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." This passage reminds us of the vast difference between human and divine perspective. What looks like a dead dream to us might be transformed into something that we couldn't have imagined. If I'm honest, I like clinging to this verse more than I like clinging to Psalm 37. And it's not because I don't think that God wants to give me the desires of my heart, but it's because I think that in our humanity, we hold to this verse inappropriately. Isaiah makes this more clear for me when I know that I don't have the capacity to think as God thinks or to see as God sees. Consider how Joseph's dream of leadership seemed crushed when he was sold into slavery. Yet God was working towards something greater than Joseph had envisioned, not just leadership in his family, but saving nations from famine. And the only way to get where God needed him to get was to go through the slavery. It's not pretty. It's not what he wanted, and it's certainly not what he dreamed, but his ways were not God's ways. And I am sure in the end, Joseph was super happy that God's perspective was different than his. The death of a dream is painful precisely because we can only see from our limited perspective. We grieve what we imagine. While God might be preparing something beyond our imagination, we still grieve. The hardest part is surrendering our vision to embrace God's higher purpose. The last example I want to give you is in 2 Corinthians 12, 7-10. And it says this, "So to keep me from becoming conceited because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given to me in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me, to keep me from being conceited. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me. But he said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me.'" Paul had a dream, to be free from his thorn in the flesh, whatever that affliction was. He prayed earnestly, yet God's answer was not healing, but sufficient grace. Sometimes our dreams die because God has a deeper work to accomplish in us. Paul discovered that his weakness became the very channel through which God's power flowed. His unfulfilled dream of healing led to a greater testimony of God's sustaining grace. The harshness of disappointed dreams often reveals our deepest attachments. When we cling to our dreams more tightly than to God Himself, their death becomes an invitation to find our ultimate satisfaction in Him rather than in His gifts. His delay or His no can often show us the true purpose for our lives and help us release the things we hold so close and so dear. The things that we hold so close and so dear that will not serve us where He is taking us. I realized all those years ago, when I would get frustrated with the girl that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I would get frustrated with her messaging that God would give her exactly what she was hoping. But I finally realized that I was frustrated because I felt like she was leading others astray. I felt that she was promising something for someone else that she had no business promising. I was frustrated because I myself had moved on from this idea. I knew God was moving me to a season where holding on to old dreams would not serve me where He was taking me. He never promised me anything specific. He did promise that He would be with me. He promised His ways were not my ways. His promise to me was that while my dreams were good and big and glorious, He had better, larger, and more glorious dreams for me than what I was dreaming, and better than what I thought I had been promised. It wouldn't serve me what I had dreamed. It wouldn't serve me where He was taking me. I had to let the dreams die. They were turning into something better. The death of a dream can feel like the end, but Scripture shows us it's often a beginning. David's long journey to kingship, Joseph's detour through prison, and Paul's continued thorn all reveal the same truth. God works through disappointed hopes to accomplish deeper purposes. If you're in that place today where a cherished dream has died, I invite you to do 4 things. 1, grieve honestly. The pain is real, and God honors your tears. 2, look for the preparation. How might this season be developing character and faith that you'll need later? 3, surrender your vision. Open your hands to receive what God may be giving instead of what you imagined. And 4, embrace weakness. It is our broken places that God's strength often shines most brightly. If you remember Psalm 37:4, delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Remember it this way. Perhaps the greatest transformation happens not when our dreams come true, but when our hearts are so aligned with God that His desires become our own. As we close, I want to remind you of Romans 8:28, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, and for those who are called according to His purpose. Even the death of our dreams can be woven into God's beautiful purpose when placed in His hands. Until next time, keep being brave enough to ask the hard questions, gentle enough with yourself to acknowledge your struggles, and open enough to let God surprise you with His answers. If this episode resonated with you, remember to subscribe, share it with someone you know who might need to hear it, and leave a review. It helps other seekers find our little community.
This podcast is produced by Told You So Media.
Told you so!